Hello BookTube, it's Roz and I'm here to do a few short reflections on this book, All the Little Bird Hearts by Viktoria Lloyd Barlow, which came out in March of this year. It's a debut by UK author. It was longlisted for the Booker Prize, and so in the latter part of the year it's got kind of more attention than it would have done otherwise, because it's from Tinder Press, which is not a big publisher. And it's a book that I think has had quite a varied response from readers. Some people absolutely loving it, but some really sort of quite negative viewpoints. I had a look on Goodreads and was really surprised by the number of sort of 2-star reviews of this book, when it's a book that I really, really enjoyed. And I think I noticed that they've particularly come since it was longlisted for the Booker Prize. So I think maybe people who were sort of drawn into reading it because it was on the Booker long list that might not have picked it up otherwise, and it wasn't the right book for them. So because this is current fiction, which I've enjoyed, I then quite like to do a video to explain, why I like it, and so that perhaps it might give you some idea of whether it might be a book for you, or might be one that you shouldn't pick up, that you won't get a lot of enjoyment out of. So let's go. I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why I think it's a splendid book. Now, it's a debut, and I'm always sort of willing to, cut a bit of slack, I suppose, to a debut novel by an author. So I suppose my reason number one for enthusiastically recommending this book would be that it's not perfect, but is it fresh? Is it exciting? Has it got something different to offer? Because that's what you kind of perhaps hope for from a debut novelist, and I absolutely think that this book delivers on that. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is, well, now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you will know that one of my absolute pet peeves about fiction is rubbish use of neurodivergent characters in novels. And human beings are neurodiverse. I am, we all are, but some of us are more positively neurodivergent than others, and that's part of humanity. So books should include neurodivergent characters, of course they should, and that shouldn't be reserved only for neurodivergent writers. Neurotypical writers should have characters with neurodifferences too, because as I say, we're a neurodiverse species as human beings. But I find it infuriating, as someone with a lot of neurodivergence in my family, and I'm dyspraxic myself and so on. It just drives me mad when people use neurodivergent characters as a sort of clumsy plot device, or a kind of lazy form of character development that isn't character development. It's just like, we'll make them a bit quirky and imply they're autistic or whatever, or they've got ADHD, and that way we needn't, bother to actually write a decent character, or that somehow that will excuse, their unexpected actions, but I need them to do that to suit my plot. I don't know. It drives me mad. And even the ones where it's like, I really understand this and I'm going to portray it in really meaningful way, that annoys me too. So one of the reasons why I really enjoyed this book is because Lloyd Barlow is autistic herself, and she's just able to write a really rich, complex, realistic and convincing autistic protagonist. And that was a real joy to read. And it feels unusual, and I really appreciated it. Oh, sorry about that. I noticed that one of the criticisms that came up in some of the reviews that I read of the book was that the style was somehow repetitive. There were repetitive elements in the story, or in the language and so on. And I thought, you're really missing the point, because that was so much part of the characterization, that it's like was intrinsic to the style of the book. And I really, like kind of touch points that we kept coming back to. So that repetition really worked for me, and married with Sunday, the protagonist, and her view of the world. So, but loving the fact that this is an autistic writer writing a great autistic main character is not enough in itself to love the book. So my reason number 3 for really enjoying it was that Lloyd Barlow uses having a first person narrator who's autistic as a way to write just a really good novel, a really good story. She does use it as a way in, I suppose, a way into Sunday, but also it's like we see all the other characters and events through Sunday's eyes, okay, because it's first person narrative, and Sunday's perspective as an autistic person is somehow she cuts through elements so that we see things in a different way, and see things perhaps as well, I don't know, we see how much kind of convention and fashion and habit and etiquette or whatever sort of shapes what people do and say in a way that is not true to their real feelings, say. And seeing it through Sunday's eyes, we get to kind of appreciate that more than if it was a neurotypical person, neuro majority person narrating the book. And at the same time, it also makes the book a bit like a mystery, I suppose, in that we can see that sometimes Sunday's particular perspective means that she also misses things, or she picks up on clues about people's feelings and behaviour that she doesn't necessarily understand or recognise at first, but we do. So we kind of see what's happening, or can guess what's happening and what's in other people's minds, or what's behind other people's behaviour, when she doesn't yet. And that's the sort of one of those satisfying things in a book for a reader, when you feel like you get it more than the narrator does. That's always enjoyable, isn't it? It's a clever thing when an author does that, but in a way that works. And, Lloyd Barlow successfully does that. Reason number 4 for why I love this book is it's a good story. There's a really strong story arc, to the plot for me. And also I got really caught up in and curious about all the characters, their different lives, not just Sunday, also her parents, that she's kind of thinks back, she thinks back to her childhood and things that happened then, her sister, her relationship with her daughter, and how her daughter is growing up, and how the relationship changes as mothers and daughters' relationships always change as their daughter becomes a teenager. But the particular twist to this, because of their neuro difference from each other, I suppose Sunday's autism, her being autistic. Well, one of the people in the reviews that I read on Goodreads said that they felt it was used to make her be able to be this sort of naive main character who was sort of abused and ingenuous, and that was the purpose of it. And I thought that was a really, really narrow reading of the book, and a real misunderstanding, missing so much of Sunday's complexity as a person, her enjoyment of life, as well as the issues that she sometimes faced with people, and people not always understanding her and treating her brilliantly. But it really, I don't know, that really diminished to me what I thought was, a really, I really got sort of, I was moved by the emotional life of this book, and, not only Sunday's emotional life, but also that of her daughter and her strange neighbours that the plot kind of hangs on, and all of that. And her mother, I felt for her mother, even though her mother is like kind of a horrible character, but also not, because you think, what was going on in her mind? Why was she the way she was? So, reason number 5 why I love this book is the actual enjoyment I got from it at a sentence level, with the language. And there's something about the way things are described in the book. Sensations and people's behaviours, really brilliant observation, or really kind of like detailed description that was, again, perhaps linked to Sunday's particular autistic way of seeing and feeling things, that was generated, that Lord Barlow conveyed in language that I found really sort of beautiful and quite sort of striking and poetic at times. I'm going to read you a couple of kind of little examples to sort of show you what I mean. So Sunday works as a gardener, and she loves it in the greenhouses. She finds them, she says, the greenhouses are marvellously silent, unattended by anyone but me and occasionally David, who is himself a quiet person. So sound is really important. Then she loves the earth and the feeling of the earth. When I work, the dark and silky soil still satisfies my hands with a quality like gravity, the reassuring and even weight of a sought embrace. Yeah, it's brilliant. Isn't that brilliant? And then her observation of other people is really acute, and then that comes over in the sentences. So one of the characters, Sunday, is looking out the window at 3 other characters getting into the car. Rollo opened the passenger door in a sweeping and deferential motion, as if making up to a spouse for a recent oversight. Great way of describing it. There we go. That's the pleasure that I took in this book. I would love to hear it if you enjoyed it too, or if you've read it and didn't think it was good. I suppose I'm also interested in your opinion. But if you haven't read it yet, I hope from my description you'll have a good idea of whether this is potentially one for you.